PQNK, the regenerative and sustainable natural agriculture. In prehistoric times, the human race lived in communes for collective survival, protection, and food security. Tribes settled near water and vegetation for food supplies and in areas considered safe from wild animals and competing tribes. Food was collected and served from natural vegetation, which was biodiverse. Food collection areas were large, making the process both threatening and laborious. Inherent to nature is its ability to allow vegetation to increase through a system of seed distribution. Some seeds are light in weight and drift by air to distant locations, while others are hidden in food that animals and humans eat and spread. In the natural habitat, plants are the only living beings that produce their own food as well as food for other species. Food seeds collected by humans were thrown nearby, where they would germinate and grow. Humans found that if crop plants were grown nearby in a concentrated form, it would be easier to collect the food without threats from rival tribes and wildlife. It was observed that most of the seeds thrown on a patch of land did not germinate because birds and other species would take them away. It was discovered that most seeds germinated when they were buried in the soil. This marked the beginning of agriculture as we know it today. Tools were improvised to bury seeds with minimal labor, and later domesticated animals were used. This method of growing food focused on making seeds germinate by burying them in soil, without understanding the interactions between soil, water, plants, microbes, and the overall natural ecosystem necessary for soil fertility and vegetation. This agricultural practice continued for thousands of years without noticeable effects on the quality of the topsoil. This was mainly because the demand for food was much less due to the smaller population and also because their agricultural method relied on animal power, not tractors. In a natural ecosystem, the land is neither leveled nor plowed. Rain and dew provide water, which the soil absorbs, while organic mulch preserves the soil's moisture. The mulch prevents water runoff, which could carry away the top layer of the soil, and it also reduces evaporation through capillary action. Seeds are distributed and propagated through natural mechanisms. At the stage of modernization, humans had two options: either to return to natural habitats and learn from natural processes of soil fertility and vegetation to develop a sustainable approach for future agricultural production, in line with the natural ecosystem, or to continue building on evolved methods. Unfortunately, the second option, ongoing practices based on evolved tillage-based farming, was followed and augmented. Redundant suppliers of World War chemicals and war equipment formed a cartel. They founded and funded the so-called Green Revolution, which was a disguise for industrial agriculture. By presenting their image as green and thus appearing natural, they could develop a market for inputs manufactured by them, such as farm machinery and agrochemicals. Science has shown that every soil contains an abundance of all the minerals needed for vigorous growth. However, these minerals are in a sustainable form. Plants rely on the biota in the natural ecosystem to convert these minerals from a sustainable to a plant-available form. The use of agrochemicals kills this biota, creating a demand for even more agrochemicals. Because of universities' funding sources, academia continued to develop methods that replaced the natural ecosystem, focusing their research on equipment, mostly plows, and soil chemistry. However, in a natural ecosystem, biology replaces chemistry, but the voices advocating for this were silenced. Our journey towards modernization began in 1972 when we started mechanization on our family farm. Traditionally, only summer crops were planted due to the lack of canal water in winter. At the beginning, there were no tube wells to pump groundwater. Eventually, a tube well was installed, and the land was properly designed to create long fields for furrow irrigation. Cotton, wheat, and sugarcane were the principal crops. Later, we added potatoes and corn. Initially, the soil was marked using a traditional method, and after preparing the seedbed, potato seeds were placed by hand and manually covered with soil. Yields were low, up to 5 tons per acre. The ridge sizes were not more than 8 inches, 20.32 centimeters. We then introduced mechanical ridgers to plant all our crops on ridges, including potatoes. The yield increased from 5 tons to 15 tons per acre, which made us realize the importance of the process. With the change in process, see picture below, the yield tripled without any other modifications. We continue to make improvements to get closer to precision agriculture, using siphon tubes for furrow irrigation to manage water, applying fertilizers as a side dressing instead of broadcasting, and later, using fertigation and foliar applications. We also introduced pneumatic precision planters to save seeds by ensuring accurate seed-to-seed spacing. Additionally, we brought in improved seed varieties, including crosses, hybrids, and GMOs, but the yield eventually